Verbal contracts are not legally binding. That's absolutely a myth. It depends on what the contract is. If you, well, and I guess they do provide you receipts when you go into a McDonald's, but if you go into a McDonald's and say, I'll give you $5 for a Big Mac, and they give you a Big Mac and you give them $5, that's a binding contract. Offer, acceptance, consideration, there's nothing wrong with that. When you talk about bigger transactions, so like I can see where this myth would come from. If you're talking about like a house sale, a contract for marriage, if you're talking about a contract for employment over 1 year after the date the employment starts or when the contract is signed, there are certain things that are in what's called a statute of frauds where the types of contracts are potentially likely to be disputed. And so whether you think it's smart or not to have some sort of a land sale contract as opposed to a handshake contract, the government requires that you have a contract for certain types of transactions to avoid an issue 50 or 100 years in the future about who owned this property and how this thing passes through intestate succession. Just to avoid that conflict, you got to write it down when it's fresh in your mind. So it's definitely a legal myth. It depends on what thing you're talking about for your contract. So your subject matter of your contract. Interesting wrinkle and a question that nobody asked, but even some written contracts are not legally binding. So like you can imagine an illegal contract, a contract on a murder for hire. You could have a great written contract. It's still not legally binding. If the guy doesn't actually like follow through with the murder, you're not in a position where you can take the person to court and force the court to get the person to go murder whoever you wanted them to go murder. It's an illegal contract to begin with. A written contract to sell illegal drugs is likely also, could be a written contract, but that doesn't make it legally binding. Whether it's written or not is not the correct part of the analysis, depending on the subject matter of the contract. So I hope that's helpful. Myth busted.